have just popped back onto my channel today to have a really exciting conversation with a brand who we have literally just started working with only a couple of weeks ago. Evan Lewis, who's the founder of Vent for Change, hopefully will be popping on in a moment so we can collaborate and have a chat with him about the story of Vent for Change, what products the brand makes, why they started kind of creating what they're creating, and generally just dive a little bit further into the sustainability side of what they're doing. The reason for this is because it's essentially my job here at Zero Waste Goods to help brands and conscious consumers connect. And to do that, we not only provide a platform via our markets, but we also speak to these brands and find what they do in order to help kind of create a community of brands that people can trust and can choose to purchase and support because they know that these are really good brands to basically purchase from. And hi, Evan. Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
How are you doing? Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, I can indeed. Yeah, and I can see you.
Excellent. Yes, these are the two core features of this app, but they're not always that easy to get. I know when we were chatting on email, I told you, and this was last week, that we had workmen outside our building, and they literally cut through our Virgin cable. So we've had no internet the last week, and it's still not back. So if this cuts out a little bit, then I apologise in advance.
Well, equally, I'm in a shared office and I've had to go into the sort of storeroom, as you might see from the background here. So, but it's close enough to the Wi-Fi, I'm told, and so far so good. So
amazing.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed, indeed. Thank you so much for taking time out this afternoon to have a chat with me. I know you're obviously very busy, but it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you a little bit on email, because we've been working together over the last couple of weeks or so, which has been really exciting. So yeah, just to kick off, thank you very much.
Thank you for reaching out. It's a pleasure. Yeah, let's see what we can cover. I'm quite excited to find out a little bit more about what your opinions are as well. So crack on.
Crack on, off we go. So kind of a little bit of a backstory for everyone watching, and if you are watching and you have a question, please do jump into the chat, let us know you're here, send us some likes, send us some questions, and we'll get going. But the purpose of this session, as I mentioned, is to sort of go behind the scenes and understand a little bit more about the what, the how, the who, the why behind Vent for Change, which is Evan's brand. And for me, I stumbled across you guys on my never-ending hunt across the internet for sustainable products to go inside our gift boxes. And stationery, I have to say, is one of the #1 requests that I get from friends, colleagues, people on Instagram saying, Mel, where do you recommend I get my stationery from? And it's not easy to find somewhere that fits all my categories, ticks all my boxes. So when I came across Vent for Change, I was so unbelievably excited and also skeptical. I was like, there must be something these guys are hiding. They can't have ticked so many boxes straight off the bat. So for people who don't know, tell us a little bit about your brand.
Vent for Change is we refer to ourselves as a sustainable stationery company that protects the planet and supports children's education projects with every item sold. It's a bit of a mouthful, but we've had to, as you say, we tick lots of boxes. We do lots outside of that too, and maybe we'll come on to that a little bit sooner or later. But in essence, it's a stationery range: notebooks, journals, pens, pencils, all of which are made from recycled, biodegradable, sustainable materials. And proceeds from every single sale go towards existing education projects around the world, getting children back into school, or helping to train teachers so that schools can function in different parts of, mainly in the developing world, and then we do different things in this country as well, all based around education. So combining people with planet, I suppose. People
with planet, with education, stationery. It's a whole ecosystem.
Yes.
It's amazing. And I think this is what both surprised me but also really wowed me about your brand was, and maybe this is also a question for you, is at first I thought it was sustainability first, and then through the vehicle of the sustainable stationery, you're able to power education projects. But I actually think it could be the other way around, isn't it? Like the education piece came first. Is it, you know, which one came first, and how did they evolve together?
Okay, to give you a little bit of backstory, because I think that's important to understand how the brand and how the company has come about. I've been an environmental entrepreneur since 1999. So a very, very long time. And some people may say, you know, I was ahead of the curve. You know, it hasn't been easy making money as an environmentalist for over 20 years. Not to say that, you know, that's even just to make a living, let alone make money. So my environmental business wholesales biodegradable, organic, fair trade, sustainable, all manner of things. I have about 150 different products. One of which, in 2014, I was offered the chance to buy a little factory that made or could make pencils out of recycled CD cases. And so I purchased that factory. I say factory, it was a line of machinery that could turn plastic CD cases into pencils. It was very run down, it was falling to pieces, but the guys who were running it at the time said, you know, Evan, you know, please help us keep this company afloat. And I felt that we could sell those pencils into our existing market, which was the sort of environmental promotional merchandise sector. So I took that on, and it was just another one of, you know, 100, 150 products that we sell into promotional merchandise. And out of the back of that, I'd spent 15 years then supporting the environment. And if I'm honest, I needed a change, and I had a great team behind me. And so I was looking for something to sort of fill my time. And the pencil is the most iconic educational tool going back centuries. So I felt, well, you know, maybe I can use these pencils to do something for education. So I'd been in the environmental field for a very long time, and just the manifestation of what the pencil could do from a social perspective, I was ready to turn my attention towards people as well as the planet. And so it was a natural progression to take these pencils and say, well, let's use those as a currency to try and help education and projects for disadvantaged children around the world. At the time, between sort of 2014 when I bought this machinery and 2016, 17 when we'd made the improvements and fixed it all up, there was a huge amount of column inches and television and reporting coming from all over the world, natural disasters, war and conflict, extreme poverty. And I felt that those that were being affected massively and could do nothing about it, and through no fault of their own, were the children and their education particularly. So it was very high on the sort of social agenda, and I thought, well, this is the ideal thing that we can do. So I started bringing NGOs and charities and education organizations, Save the Children, people like that, and saying, look, I've got, you know, 1 million pencils a year coming off this factory line that are in excess of what I can currently sell to our existing customers. Do you want them? You know, what can we do with them? And they said, look, you know, all of them were very, you know, pleased that I'd got in touch, but they were saying, we're running education projects, but what we actually might need after an earthquake is a roof on the school, and in Sierra Leone we might need a teacher to teach. And as much as we'd love to take your pencils on board, what we really need is money. And they weren't being difficult or anything like that. They genuinely needed to put in sanitation. They needed to have pay teachers, things like that. So I thought, well, I'll sell the pencils, and then from the proceeds, give that to those education projects that are going on. And so Vent was born out of that. You know, just selling pencils, you have to sell a lot of pencils to put a roof on one school. So I thought, well, let's branch out and use all my contacts from the environmental sector that I've been working in for 15 years by them. Let's create a full range of stationery, which is still linked to the pencil, still linked to education, all of which, of course, because of the nature of what I do, was going to be sustainable, environmental, etc. But use the proceeds from that to sell and, you know, support those education projects. So that's where it all came about. So I don't know which one came first. The planet probably, because I was already in that, but then you know, the education came off the back of it. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, it's phenomenal, and I don't know if anyone's, I mean, people probably say this to you, but like, congratulations. It really is such a worthwhile undertaking, and it's something that people can get on board with, interact with, understand, and it's something, you know, oftentimes when you think about buying a product and making an impact, it's very ego driven. It's, I will buy my reusable water bottle and then I will be saving plastic from the ocean, which is still great. Like, definitely still do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
However, when you're purchasing something like a pencil, which is something you'd use again and again and again, and refill, or, you know, buy more when you run out, and to know that the money from that is going to other people as well, and like helping tackle an even bigger problem, I think is really powerful.
And we know that, I mean, education is one of the most important things that you can give a child to lift themselves and their family out of poverty. And you can, well, it's the old adage about, you know, giving a man a fish or teaching them to fish. You know, if you give someone a fish, they can feed themselves that day. But if you teach them to fish, then they can continue feeding themselves for, you know, weeks and months, generations to come. And so education, we felt, was just so valuable in terms of lifting those children, those families, those communities out of poverty. But through education, we can make environmental improvements as well. And without education, there's no way we can benefit, you know, the planet as well as those communities. So the two things do go hand in hand. And what we try to do through education and the environment as well, I mean, you talked about credibility at the beginning, you know, was it all too good to be true, actually? Were we greenwashing? You know, I totally get that. I totally get it. And after 15 years in the green sector, I've heard it all. You know, no one believes, you know, everything that they're told, and quite often rightly so. But actually, before I even set up Vent as a stationery company, having gone through the concept of giving away pencils to you know, organizations and, you know, projects that were going on, I established a Global Education Awareness Day. Now, I don't know whether you may have seen a little bit of it on our website, but for those that have joined us, as well as the brand of Environmental Stationery, we run Share a Pencil Day, which again comes back to the whole pencil and the fact that it's educational. And people had said, well, if you're going to help children overseas, what are you going to do for children in the UK, which is where we're based? And it's not that we had particularly set out to help those in developing countries and overseas without helping in the UK. We will be working with projects in years to come everywhere, including the UK. But way back then, I thought it's really important to educate the children in England about educational issues around the rest of the world. So each year in May, Share a Pencil Day teaches for free any child in primary or secondary school why kids all over the world aren't able to access the education that they deserve. And on that one day where we provide lesson plans and videos and all sorts for teachers and pupils of all different ages, so that they can, you know, do this day together, we actually we ask them, when they're filling out their projects and doing their tasks, to share one pencil between two pupils. Which is showing them in a very tangible way what it means not to have all the resources that we take for granted in the UK, and another reason that children struggle to get the education. So yeah, we set up Share a Pencil Day even before we started Vent as a stationery line, because we knew that we couldn't afford to give anyone the Achilles heel and say, well, actually, these guys don't mean it. They're just greenwashing. They're just saying this. You know, they're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. So we've had more than 200,000 children have signed up to take part in Share a Pencil Day since 2017. So it's doing these little bits, going the extra mile behind the scenes, that lends the credibility to the brand itself. And yeah, that's something I'm very proud of. So, you know, that's where, you know, launching a range of stationery, I don't know, I've kind of taken that in my stride slightly. The principles have always been there, and they underpin the brand. But actually, Share a Pencil Day is probably one of the things that, as a brand, as a company, as an individual, you know, I'll take that if someone says well done. The other stuff, I sort of brush it off. But
the other stuff is almost like it's like the hook to this deeper world of true genuine care. I mean, to go through this process of creating an informative, educational, inspirational, but impactful curriculum, not only for UK students, but also through that process, educating their parents, I'm sure, the teachers, and having that be the ripple effect, especially when those children grow up. I think.
And we make a point of introducing the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, into that day, so that children, goal 4 is all about equitable education, and so we focus our day, Share a Pencil Day, on goal 4. But we do talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, which introduces all those other environmental, social, sustainable goals to those children at a very young age, between the age of sort of 7 and 12, 13. So they can often look at climate change, they can look at endangered species, they can look at, and so the teachers have then got a hook, as you say, to bring other environmental things into the classroom.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. Did it happen this year? Because obviously things were a bit nuts.
It didn't happen this year. Well, it hasn't happened yet this year.
Okay.
So for 3 years we did a physical day where the teachers were able to download all of the resources, watch the films with all their pupils together, and they could share together. Last year, obviously, we were all in the middle of lockdown, so we did make it available online, so that teachers and pupils could do it at home. But the whole essence of sharing the pencil and doing tasks together and things like that, we feel is a fundamentally important part of it. And so we hope that we'll find a day later in this year that we can do it where everyone's actually going to be together at school, and they're not going to miss out on that. So hope 2021 hasn't yet taken place, but there is every chance that in the autumn it will.
Every chance that it will. And my train of thought immediately went to, well, why don't we do it online? But coming back to that vital piece of, I don't have a pencil in my hand to write down this thing that the teachers asked me to write, and that kind of pressure when you're 6, 7, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
That isn't quite the same as if it's your mum. She's like, I don't have a pencil, can't do my work.
That's right.
Might go the wrong way.
And for one child to fill out a bit of it and then share the pencil, and so the other child can fill out another bit of the task. And this is what children are facing. Millions of children the world over are facing. So it's great that they have that empathy just by doing that on that one day.
That's amazing. I love it. And I was going to ask this question a little bit later on, but since we're on the topic now, we'll go there. What has the impact been abroad? Like, how has all of this been received, and what kind of projects have been born out of all of the work that you've been doing?
Well, projects haven't been particularly born out of what we have done. We haven't set out to run our own projects or create projects. What we do well is inspire people to buy a beautiful looking product that's got a story behind it. So we're marketeers, we're product designers, that sort of thing. There are amazing organizations and people and volunteers out there running projects already. And so that's what they do. They do well. And so we support at the moment Plan International, which is one of the UK's leading children's charities. It's a highly credible charity. It's one of the government's Disaster Emergency Commission DEC charities that steps in when there are hurricanes and floods and things like that. So hugely credible, but they run particularly an education section within the charity, which currently has, and it's a movable beast because projects come and go and they wane in and out. With the pandemic, they've got more trying to get kids back to school and for other reasons. So they have between 25 and 30 children's education projects running at any one time. And our donations that are born out of the proceeds from people buying the product, that they are ring fenced to go to Plan's education department. So they do sanitation, and they do health and safety, all sorts of other things, but our monies go towards their education projects. So we haven't created projects, we haven't developed projects, we have just supported those that are out there being run by the professionals.
Wow. That's amazing. The image, like the analogy that's coming to my mind is almost like a sandwich, where the bottom bit was this kind of core educational piece in the UK, helping children in schools to start talking about education and why it's important, with this, the pencil being the core element that's joined all the way through this. And then the filling is the stationery company, and the way that it's producing things that consumers can interact with, companies can purchase, and then that creates enough wealth to be able to spill out and create this extra layer of support for organizations already doing good work in other countries.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we just try and work with the best people in every area, and those running these projects needed money. It was clear to me when I went to start conversations with some of these charities, once I'd sort of fallen upon the model that I was going to use, that you know, the promises that the government were making way back when in David Cameron's day about 0.7% of GDP going towards, you know, overseas development, I knew full well. I don't claim to have some sort of glass ball or anything, but I knew that that couldn't last forever. And sure enough, that's been borne out this year with the reduction from 0.7%. And so those charities, those organizations, they needed to be funded and financed from any manner of different directions. And if they could work with, you know, socially led profit-making businesses, corporations, you know, companies, then I think that's essential to their longevity and to the work that they're going to do. And, you know, finances need to be underpinned for years to come. So, yeah, I mean, we just try and work with the best. I like your sandwich. Yeah, we're somewhere in the middle, but we're kind of attached to the top and the bottom as well. You know, yeah, we're just trying to pull those people together. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, I love it because it's multifaceted, and you've obviously got this core problem, this core challenge you're trying to solve. And like you've said, you've been an entrepreneur for years, so you're putting the pieces together. Or we can sell that to them and connect them to them and create this whole web of informative educational support for places that need it. Someone's going through the
someone's just come through the store cupboard. That's right. Yeah.
Well, good, as long as she's coming in to get pencils to sell, and that's what we like. So I am curious about the name though. Why Vent for Change?
Well, Vent for Change, I can't take all the credit for Vent for Change. One of early on, when I was still sort of playing around with education days and, you know, giving pencils away, I actually called it Hope. But that had too many sort of I don't know, religious and charitable connotations. And so when this designer joined me, I said, look, you can do whatever you like. You're exactly the target audience that I'm trying to attract. She was 23. She was a design grad straight out of Oxford Brookes. And she said, do you mean anything? And I said, yeah. She said, can I change the name? And I said, yeah, you do whatever you like. You know, you're exactly my target. I'm an old grey duffer. I've been in this field far too long. And so we threw all sorts of things around. But ultimately, Vent, if you look it up in the dictionary, it is to express yourself forcefully. And we knew that there's a whole generation out there of 20 to 30 that care about the environment, that care about education, and someone needs to shout about it. And we didn't want to dilly-dally around anymore. And so Vent was the sort of adjective that we wanted to use. We wanted people to express themselves with some gusto, with some force about what was going on in the world. And it might be change in terms of environment, or in terms of education, or in terms of, you know, looking after species, whatever. And, you know, one day we might support all sorts of things, but change is what's needed. You know, if we're going to turn around, you know, the climate crisis that we've got with temperatures rising and things like that, we need change. And so we wanted people to, you know, stand up on their soapbox and you know, shout about it. And scream for change. So, you know, that's where it came from. You know, I'm very pleased with it. When she first said it to me, and it was amongst all sorts of other things, I thought it was too aggressive, and I thought it was too, you know, you vent your spleen. People of my generation don't use the word vent to sort of express yourself forcefully in a positive way. It's always in a negative way. But actually, you know, I think it's created a reaction from people that is exactly what we thought it needed to do. So, you know, I'm very pleased with it, and it's snappy and it's short and it's to the point. So.
And it's very different, you know, like a lot of the brands that I see, especially ones that occupy the environmental space, kind of similar to my brand name. It either says what it is, like it's zero waste, or it's like this kind of more like ethereal green, like muted brown sort of kind of brand feel to it. It's very like earthy, whereas yours is like Vent for Change. You know, the stationery itself really pops. You've got bright colors in there. You know, the branding's really fun, but it's making a statement. So I was just curious if it did have a story, and that it's a good one. So I'm glad I asked.
And I think the statement is exactly what it is. We're trying to make a statement, and actually to bore some of your followers, people that are, the three lines that make up the word vent instead of the E, that symbol, that as a mathematical symbol, means equal to, equal with, equality.
Wow.
And the two lines is, you know, if you add this and this, it's equal to that. But using the three lines, there's an equality thing in there. Look it up online. But actually, that was something that was really important to us as well, because it's about girls' education. It's about grown-ups' education. It's about everybody being equal and having a chance. So there's a little bit of, you know, something in the graphic behind the word, the name Vent as well, which is, yeah, just adds a little bit more depth to it, but very much reflects what we're all about.
And for anyone watching, this is what we are referring to, this EVENT and the three lines there representing this idea of equality, which is what this is all about. And you are right, like, even if you look at the wider scheme of, as you've mentioned, like warming climate change and women's education, there is actually a really strong correlation between this idea of having education for women and, you know, reduction population, for example, you know, women being able to fund and support their families, and, you know, it just creates this a much fairer, much greener system for everybody if this one lever was able to be pulled. But as you've kind of indicated, it's not a simple solution.
It's not simple, but it needs to be highlighted. It needs to be talked about. In fact, Share a Pencil Day 2 years ago the focus was on girls' education. As you say there, as you've alluded to, the difference between getting a girl through to the end of secondary education in terms of the health of their family, the number of children that they have, how they can support themselves. I mean, it is immeasurable. I mean, the difference is massive. And when these girls aren't allowed to continue with their education, or they don't have the opportunity to finish their education, or never enter education, their chances in life are, you know, impacted enormously. Yeah.
It is. When you start looking and diving into the underbelly of sustainability, it is so much more than just looking at our own insular consumer habits, as I've said at the beginning of this. It is so much more integrated and interconnected, and we all can do something, no matter whether it's big or if it's small. If you start a business, if you buy from a small business, and just knowing, for example, that with this gorgeous, might I add, these are also delightful, absolutely wonderful notebooks, pens, paper, you are actually contributing to supporting education and thus creating like this greener, fairer, just future for everyone. It's not, this isn't greenwashing, this is one for one, as we've said, you know, that's the point.
Yeah, it's not great. What I should say, which is important, when you talk about one for one there, which reminds me of Tom's shoes. A lot of you may or may not be familiar. One for one, Tom's, where one pair of shoes goes and, you know, delivers on another pair of shoes. I think it's important to clarify how we give as an organisation. We're not a social enterprise. We're not a charity. We are a company that, you know, one day may turn a profit. It's going to be a long way off at the moment. We put any money that we've got back into Share a Pencil Day and our ambassador programs, things like that. But we make a very clear indication about how we give. And sometimes I refer to ourselves as a giving enterprise rather than a social enterprise, because we don't give on a profit basis. A lot of social enterprises will say, you know, 100% or 50% or 20% of their profits at the end of the year will go to a particular cause that they are championing. Now, for all the best will in the world and all the great work that social enterprises do, if at the end of the year they haven't made a profit, no money from your purchase is ultimately going to end up going towards that cause. So we've set ourselves out slightly differently. We say 10% of our net sales value. So anything that we sell, if I sell for £1, 10p of that goes to education. If I sell for £10, £1 of that goes to education. Nothing to do with how much profit we make. We have to make sure we turn a profit at the end of the year. So from the first product to the last, 10% of what we receive from that sale will go towards those education projects.
Wow. Well, I'm glad we touched on that, because that is a really important distinction. And I think what I said was actually misleading in that sense, because it is a different model. So I'm glad you brought that up. And, you know, do you think this is kind of the future for businesses that really want to affect positive change in the world? And I know that's quite a big question, but...
I don't know whether our model for giving is the future for businesses that want to affect change. But I hope that we can set an example to others that are setting out on a journey to create their own companies, be it with products or with services, that actually they can do it in a socially responsible way, supporting a particular cause. And I think, we're not the cheapest notebook on the market. We don't want to be the stationery cupboard stock item that just gets used every day. We know we're a bit more expensive, but it's a gift item. So we focus on quality and we focus on design and making a beautiful product that someone wants to buy, irrespective of whether it is socially responsible, environmental, etc. So I think if you know what you want to achieve as an entrepreneur, as a young mind, then you've got to build some of those costs into what you're trying to achieve, and you've got to manage your business around those commitments and contributions that you're making. And I hope that we can be a shining example. There are plenty of other people out there doing good things in the same way that we are, and I just hope that our story reaches some more who are starting on that journey.
Wow. I have enjoyed every second of this, and I'm aware I've taken up half an hour of your time already. And I know we haven't even touched on like the materials and things like that. So maybe we'll have to do a round 2 interview with you to talk about all the materials and things like that. But for anybody who is curious on this call, yes, Event for Change do have a gorgeous range of stationery, from notebooks, list pads, pens, pencils, that all have been made as sustainably as possible. And you can give us a little insight onto the materials really quickly, and then we'll wrap up.
Very quickly, we have a range called Make a Mark, which uses reclaimed leather on the covers and to make little pouches, things like that. That comes out of the Italian fashion industry. The unashamedly raw recycled books that you're holding there are my favourites, and minimalist, uncoated grey board with an FSC certified paper. So we combine recycled with sustainable materials, and we only produce in the UK and Europe. We don't produce anything in the Far East. We have pens made from old plastic bottles, pencils made from the CD cases that we make in our own little factory up in Worcestershire, etc. So everything's got its own story. Everything's sort of, it's just a bit of fun.
It's just a bit of fun, he says, so lightheartedly. It's years and years and years of hard work in the making, but the quality really does speak for itself. And I'm so glad that that I came across you and we were able to include these in our gift boxes. So we have recently just launched our own range of letterbox gift boxes like this. So they go in your letterbox, kind of nice snazzy design, and these fit in absolutely beautifully. So we've got a box on there which is for the writer in your life, or anybody who loves morning pages. I don't know if you journal. Do you journal, Evan? You must do. You must
I'm
be
not
prolific,
that
surely.
Doodle. I think I do,
you doodle,
but I'm not
that
sure
counts.
I journal.
Oh, wonderful. But yes, so these are absolutely gorgeous. And if somebody was interested to learn more about you, either take part in your programs for schools, perhaps, if they're curious about that, or wanted to purchase from you, where can people find you?
Well, our website, eventforchange.co.uk, has got information about the education projects, some of them just examples of some of those that are being run that we're supporting. It touches on Share a Pencil Day and our ambassador program, which I haven't even referred to yet, so you can go and find out a little bit more about that. And you can see the full range online, www.eventforchange, that's F-O-R, change, there's no fancy digits, numbers, numericals in there, .co.uk, and we'd be delighted if anyone wants to find out more.
Wonderful. And what we're going to do as well is pop a fully detailed list or informative kind of, I guess, roundup summary of everything that we've talked about on our green goods directory. So if you really want to dive a little bit more into the sustainability, materials, that sort of thing, that will be live on our green goods directory. And if you want to get it straight into your inbox, just sign up to our newsletter called Behind the Brands, and it's live now in our link tree, which is the link on our profile. So do sign up there if you'd like to get information like this into your inbox, to always keep up with the sustainable brands that we're loving. make sure you do that this afternoon. Otherwise, go and follow Vent for Change on their profile, shop with them whenever you need stationery. September is just around the corner, and that's always a big back to school, back to work.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And thank you from the bottom of my heart, and for everyone watching and listening, for all the work that you've done and all the work that you'll continue to do. I think the product itself is just absolutely, I love it. Genuinely think it's fantastic, and just knowing how much impact this one product is having on the world is just as the icing on the cake, really.
Thank you for your support. Keep up your good work. Keep spreading the news.
We'll try, so long as the internet comes back at some point, we'll be able to. But well, it's lovely to meet you properly, and I'm sure we'll continue to work together, hopefully moving forward.
I hope so too. Take care. Thanks everyone.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.